Hey everybody, DayTraderRockStar here with a fast market update. I'm just kind of talking about a few events that are coming up. Market's been on a tear, of course, and everything is looking good. We've been doing great here at Day Trading Radio. The HPS setups you were just looking at before have been just kicking butt. Definitely helps that the market hits all-time highs. Everything's good. I haven't been doing too many updated videos because we've just been so busy trading. But things have slowed down a little going into the end of the week as all our setups have hit their marks. Our profits, I take a lot of profits off the table going into next week, right now. So I want to just discuss that. Next Monday, I believe it's Monday, Donald Trump is going to address Congress in the State of the Union address. And at this point, and don't look at this stock, I don't need that stock up. At this point, he's probably going to, and I think I heard this on the news today, address the infrastructure plan. There was a few things that are still pushing this market higher. Now, we knew that the tax bill was out there, and that has definitely boosted this market. And you could take this is a good picture of the S&P 500 right here. We've been going gradually moving up against the 20-period moving average, up against the 20. Every time we pull back, this was definitely one of the stronger markets I've ever seen. Different from the .com market. A little different. I mean, we didn't have the gap up of 20, 30 points in stocks, but we are definitely feeling some really strong, today 6-7 point gap ups are kind of a common thing with Google and Netflix and our big internet, the FANG stocks, all really performing well, and it just doesn't really look like it's going to pull back too much. And I don't want to concentrate on trying to top this market out or call a top in the market, but I do want to bring to your attention a couple events. First of all, it's earnings season, and that earnings should be fine. I don't think there's any issue there, except that sometimes you will get into a stock and earnings will sneak up on you, and it will move a stock in a direction that you're not familiar with because of the news. It's more volatile and stuff like that. It doesn't mean that you're right or wrong. It's just that news is always, earnings is always an opportunity for people to get out on good news. Sometimes you can actually see the stock sell off. So it's just, it's a little bit more difficult. Just remember that when we do trade around earnings. The other thing, again, is this, what's causing this market to move up? Definitely what's in place with the administration. Bringing money back into the economy, the business. It's very pro-business, and this is definitely showing on this chart. Now, we've been grinding up here in a nice angle. We'll call this like a 45-degree angle, as we were pushing up here right around the 20-period moving average. And then all of a sudden, after the the tax bill has been passed, right in the beginning of the new year, the market has taken off. And now we can see we're actually pulling away. The angle is much steeper here. I don't know what the angle is at this point, maybe 65%, 65 degrees. But it is definitely pushing higher and pushing away and pulling away from that 20-period moving average. This becomes a little concerning because we know that eventually we are going to pull back, but there's no justification on time in this. Now, a few things happened today. There was some comments out there, and there's always news out there. I mean, I don't know what's going on. They're still saying there's issues with the Attorney General and this and other things and investigations. You just never know if one of these things is going to hit the market or just going to find something. They're going to make some charges. That's going to definitely be that event that's probably going to knock the market down, and that's going to be impossible to prevent. To kind of predict that, and that'll happen maybe overnight, and the market will gap down, and you're going to have to take one on the chin. But you're going to need to get out and But right now is the time, and we've been doing it for the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It's just constantly just applying our methodology, our trading plan. We've just been applying. That's what's so great here at Day Trading Radio, is that we have an established plan, a business plan. We know exactly why we're getting into a stock. We know exactly where we're taking it off, and we're not worried about greed. We're not worried about fear. Every setup here, we could zoom out here. Every setup that we bring to the table, look at all these. Green means it hits its buy trigger. You know when to buy it. You know when to sell it. It hits its profits. Every one, every single one. I don't care which one you look at. We bring it up on the screen. You'll see everything has a pattern that we pay attention to. This was kind of a divergence pattern off the lows here, and again you could see you know, when you have a buy trigger and then push right back up when we take it off, and we come back and actually see lots of times these things play over and over again. We've been in these stocks over and over again. That's not the point. I do this every day. You know, it is what it is, and we're going to continue to get this. You know, that's the problem. That's not the problem. The problem is understanding that these things really work well, and at one point you have to just kind of pull back on your trading. So there is some events out there. I just want to point out that everything is kind of hitting our target. We only have Kellogg left to hit our target. Today KMB hit our target. We've taken a lot of stocks off, and you know, that's one of kind of the update I wanted to go. I do have a couple positions on, but you know, I'm definitely scaled out of most of my positions going into next week. Now I do have, and I hate to tell you, I do have a little some puts on the SPY, you know, a little protection to the downside. And this is a Kellogg chart. Again, you can see we hit our buy trigger. That one's just active now, and we're pushing up into our profit zone. So we're going to go to the markets here, and we're going to just talk about some of the setups here and what we could be seeing. Remember, Monday, State of the Union address. Trump is going to be probably talking about the infrastructure plan, and when it comes to that, that reminds me of a question I recently got from a member. And I'll paraphrase it. John, I'm making about $1,000 to $2,000 a day in this market. It seems unreal. Everything is working great. When does this end? Is it time to get out of the market? And I'm getting that question a lot. Is it time to get out? Are we due for a pullback? Yeah, you could have said we're due for a pullback, you know, in 2016. He says, you know, this is, you can see what's going on here. We definitely have a change here. We have a different direction in the market, a real steep thing. And yeah, I agree. We're probably due for a little pullback. But typically we need a catalyst for that, because right now, well, we thought that the tax bill was going to move this market, and that might be a time to sell the news. What we talk about sell the news is the market kind of prices in an event. We know that's going to be out there. We're going to get it, and the market runs up to it, and then the event comes and it's announced, and then the market already has made its move in anticipation of that. But in that case, with the tax plan, the tax bill, that was one event. But we know that there was another event overhanging this market, and that's the infrastructure plan, the infrastructure bill. And that is also going to bring a lot of money into the market, into these businesses. And this, of course, this market is pro-business. The administration is pro-business. So this is still playing out as a big positive, because we haven't gotten to that point. And is that going to, you know, continue to push this market higher? So the one thing I would say is, going into next Monday, we're going to probably hear some of the infrastructure plan, and will that be a situation that it's out on the table? We know some of the numbers. Will the market sell off into that? Well, your guess is as good as mine. That is an option, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to prepare for that, how that's going to happen. All we're going to do is just continue to trade what we have. I want to bring that to the forefront, that we're going to be watching those events. Just an early look, just a look at the markets right now. Today, we actually had a beautiful pullback here. And this pullback was defined by a divergence, and our divergence trades have been, you know, perfect. And when you have a divergence sell signal right here, which you can actually see, and if you're not familiar with, again, the divergence setups, that's what I pretty much teach every day at Day Trading Radio, and I actually have courses on it at the theschoolofstock.com, which is a site where I hold my courses and stuff. Theschoolofstock.com, and this is just an important technique that we trade. So you had a beautiful short signal there, and you came down, and you actually had well, you didn't really have a buy signal here, but you had a little trend line and bounced back up. Then you had another little sell signal here, pulled back, and it chopped around. So the 5-minute, of course, that's more of our scalping time frame. The hourly and the 60-minute is more of our swing trade, or, you know, kind of the overnight situation. Every time that 60 minutes gets oversold, we tend to have a big rally. So we had one here. That was our last pullback on the trend line, and we didn't even get down to a point where we're oversold, but we did get across back up. Now, two things could happen. You know, we could fail to get back up to the highs here and cross back down, and this is going to be like a little bearish flag, we have a little move down, a little bounce back up to the trend line, and then a fail, and we push a little bit down to this lower trend line rising. If I would, say that's going to happen, well, that's calling a pretty big move, because this market does not give you big moves to the downside. The buy the dippers have come in here each time, but the scenario for this to happen is out there. So I have a few puts out there on the SPY puts to kind of maybe take advantage if we do have that pullback. Not to say we are going to have it, but there's something here that tells me that we have a better chance of getting a pullback going into next Monday than any other time. The daily here is definitely extended. We haven't really turned over. It was the hourly. We got a fast pullback and a little bounce, but are we going to fail? And this is going to turn back down just like this, and then from that point on we drop off a little. That's definitely a possibility, and we'll be watching for that. Other than that, just want to touch base, tell you about the the infrastructure plan out there in front of us. The State of the Union address next Monday. That's a big thing, and there's a couple other things out there. Let me see if I can find. Let me pause this and get the other big news item here. All right, I found the article. It was passed on to me by Racer, one of the members in the room, and it talked about the rebalancing of funds. And we're talking about this drop today. It was actually a nice divergence, but we could actually measure it with a divergence oscillator, the stochastic oscillator here, divergent from the price. So it was actually a great level, and it pushed. And it bounced a little, and then we kind of, like I said, we have the potential of actually following through. You can see this little trend line here kind of popped out. We broke down. Now we're holding right underneath it. We'll see if we actually break down. You might even call this a kind of a head and shoulders on the 5-minute time frame. That's a little small to be concerned about on that time frame. But the whole thing here was an interesting scenario. I want to show you the article, and I don't buy into this as much, but I want to just point at stock. Here comes the sellers. In coming days, pension funds set to sell most stocks in a year. I don't mind some of the other videos here. I can't get rid of them. It's just like weird ads and stuff. But basically here, Credit Suisse coming out saying, writes in a trading note today that U.S. pension funds that rebalance monthly, which is most of them, will have to sell more than $12 billion of stock in the coming days to return to prior asset allocation levels, given the recent rally in the stock market. Now, we saw that big ramp in the stock market, and of course, we're getting you're seeing a lot of these funds making a lot of money, but they have to bring their risk down. So as I'll read this, as they say, it's probably better for me to read it to you. They had to bring it back to prior allocation levels, given a recent rally in the market. The S&P is up 6% year to date, while bonds are just down shy of 1%. As a result, Credit Suisse calculated the funds are expected to sell a sizable $12 billion in equities and buy roughly $24 billion in fixed income. The amount of selling, CS writes, would be the biggest in at least a year for a month that does not coincide with quarter end. The details come here as it says here, we have a very strong start of the year. As a result, our models currently estimate selling in U.S. equities to total just over $12 billion from funds that rebalance on a monthly basis, a relatively large amount. In addition, U.S. pension funds are also expected to be net sellers of international equities due to their strong performances. And then they give some performances. We estimate over $9 billion of selling in developed market equities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Given the relative underperformance versus equities, we expect a significant rotation asset into fixed income to continue. Our models estimate slightly under $24 billion of buying in fixed income securities in total. So this is kind of an interesting thing. Do we start to see some rebalancing over the next few days as we come into the end of the month? And this is when that usually happens. So there's something's out there, we'll see. I don't normally we'd fly by through this, and I wouldn't even pay attention to it. But because we saw a little dip today, and we couldn't put my finger on exactly what caused it. I don't know if there was some comments that came out here. There was some comments that came out here, but this also could be a sign of things to come. Excuse me. So. Again, tomorrow, the next day, Thursday, Friday, going into Monday, Tuesday, after the State of the Union address, should be an exciting time for the market to see if we do get a pullback. Be sure to tune into Day Trading Radio. on every single day, covering the markets live from the opening bell to the closing bell, and as you can see, even the overnight markets. Have a great one. We'll see you there. Don't forget, as a member of Day Trading Radio, you do get all those setups. You get all our HPS setups. You don't have to worry about basically anything. All the research is done for you. I've been doing a few videos explaining the setups here and how great they are. You know, just how important it is to get into the right setups. You know, everything here comes with a buy trigger, sell trigger, a stop. Here was a nice possible divergence close stochastic channel. We're looking for this too. Look at that. It just every time. This is what we've been seeing all the time. All I want to bring you is these. So maybe the next few days, because of these events, we might not, you know, we need this pullback to get these setups. Right now, everything, all these stocks, if I do a scan for you, I'm not getting many things on my scan that's set up like this. These are the setups I need. I need my divergence setup. I need our playbooks to give us multiple indicators lining up. I need to have a certain setup in the market for me to trade it. And, you know, we've been doing great. As you can see, every setup here, every setup fits a tight criteria. You know, that criteria is just a tight criteria. You can see here, even this one actually we held on to. I almost want to take that red dot off of that because we held on to it. The stop was real tight. This was the only one that kind of stopped us out, and I ended up holding on to this one too, and it still looks fine, as you'll see. Well, you'll get all that on the HPS watch list. All right, I'll see you guys in the market. This is DayTraderRockStar for DayTradingRadio.com, signing off.